Fallout Equestria Survivors Guilds, Chapter 4, Sin City. It's been said that time heals all wounds. I do not agree. The wounds remained, and in time, the mind protecting its sanity covers them with scar tissue and the pain lessens, but it's never gone. Rose Kennedy. I looked out the window of the train as it sped off towards the distant city of New Pegasus. I had a lot to think about at this point, not the least of which being what all of this was meant for me. The Enclave had changed drastically, and that much was obvious. There hadn't really been any indications of what Blue Jay was up to in New Pegasus, other than a report of her taking over one of the ruling families, and that wasn't exactly a lot to go on, though. This one was smarter than the Enclave had been before, and that scared me, to be honest. "Hey, Scootaloo?" Arclight said as she took a seat next to me. "So, what do we know about New Pegasus?" "Honestly, not really a whole lot," I said with a shrug. Truth was, I only really knew about Las Pegasus other than the occasional radio broadcast I had picked up. "During the war, when it was called Las Pegasus, it was the headquarters of Rabronco under Wind Rider. I suspected that's what DJ Pone3 meant by Mr. Rider. I guess he survived somehow. Don't really know how, though." "Wait, Wind Rider?" Arclight asked. "Right. She wouldn't know him. I need to stop forgetting that." He was a Wonderbolt before the war began. One of the best, really. He set speed records that most Pegasi could only dream of," I said with a shrug. "Then he tried to frame Rainbow because she was threatening his records and got kicked out. He later showed up during the war as the founder of Rabronco. The guy's kind of a jerk, but he helped out with the stables, I guess." "I see," Ark said as she gave me a strange look. "Exactly how many survivors are out there?" "Honestly, I have no idea," I said with a shrug. "I've met 3 others, but it sounds like Wind Rider is dead, so counting me, 4, that I know of, I guess." "I see," Arclight said. I think she was surprised that so many ponies had survived this long. Honestly, I didn't either. The train went on in silence. I just hoped that we'd be able to handle what was going on. We were on the verge of entering a war zone against the most dangerous threat in the wasteland had faced in years. I sighed and took out my copy of the Book of Little Pip and started reading again. "You know what irony is?" I recognized the voice of Scootaloo, even though it was raspy, even through all of her coughing and all the mad clicking and the roar of the wind all around her. "Irony is that it feels like I spent my whole damn childhood trying to get my cutie mark, and I don't have it anymore." Well, that was incredibly surreal. I was reading about Little Pip listening to my own final message. It kind of felt like a lifetime ago that I'd left my message on my Pip book. I guess that's how they knew about me. I kept on reading as the train went on into the night. New Pegasus. It was like nothing I'd seen before in the wasteland. It wasn't a ruined husk like Manhattan or New Orleans. New Pegasus actually looked pretty close to what it had looked like during the war. Okay, so it wasn't exactly Canterlot, but it was at least intact. Okay, that may have been a poor choice of words, given what happened to Canterlot. Anyway, as the train pulled up to a stop at the station, we climbed out along with the other travelers, mostly soldiers and mercenaries heading to New Pegasus to fight the Enclave. We found ourselves in the middle of a camp made up of a series of buildings under the mountain that New Pegasus was built on. "So, what's the plan here?" Ark asked as she glanced at a pony dressed in what looked like repainted Steel Ranger power armor. "Try to blend in here. If any pony asks, we're mercs that came onto the train," I said as I adjusted my hat again. "We need to figure out how to get into this city if we're going to get any sort of information." Ark nodded and walked off. I just had to hope that I'd have some sort of luck as I started looking around. There were more of the ponies dressed in that power armor, but there was also a lot dressed in the uniforms of NCR soldiers like I'd seen in Junction Town. "Hey, watch where you're going!" A slightly raspy voice said as I nearly ran into another pony. "Oh, I'm sorry, I started to say before looking up, and the pony in front of me was dressed in a brown coat over a set of armor, but that's not what drew my attention. She was a dark blue and stared at me with magenta eyes, and her mane. It was a rainbow mane, though the colors were reversed. She was almost identical to Rainbow. Are you okay?" the pony asked as she looked at me strangely, and I was staring at her. "Yeah, I know I look like Rainbow Dash. It's a long story, okay?" "You're hurt. You're from Project Legacy, aren't you?" I asked when I finally found my voice again. "Yeah, how did you—" the pony asked, and then her eyes went wide, and she practically shouted, "Aunt Scootaloo." Great. Now everyone knew I was here. I was taken to a nearby building where the mayor, Rayne Runner, I learned her name was, set herself up. It looked like she wasn't the only one living here either, but I didn't really have time to dwell on that. Okay, this is crazy, Rayne said as I finished telling her my story. I mean, you're still really alive? Believe me, I'm as shocked as anyone else at this point, I said with a chuckle as I brushed my back mane. I'm just glad you're all okay. Are all the ponies created by Project Legacy here? Oh yeah, well, we're all here, well, in this area, Rayne said. Cinnamon Apple and Corona are off exploring the mountain to see if we can find another way into New Pegasus at the moment, and Windsong and Joy are trying to get us some more help. So, wait, what's this situation been like in the city? I asked. How did the Enclave take over? That was kind of our fault, Rayne admitted sheepishly. There's a group in New Pegasus that wanted total independence from Windrider, which the Enclave infiltrated. They convinced us to take out Windrider, but the Enclave took control after he was out of the way, I said in understanding. It can't be easy for you. You think? We barely got out of there with our lives, Rayne said with a shake of her head. We've been fighting the Enclave whenever we can, but it's gonna take a lot more than what we've got to take them out. Well, of course, but, I mean, we'll think of something, hopefully, I said with a sigh. So, Project Legacy worked, huh? Dang, if Gabby was still around, I'd owe her 50 bits. Rayne laughed for a moment before turning somber again. It didn't quite work out, honestly. Yeah, the 6 of us survived and have been thriving, but the project, well, it lost its way. My blood ran cold when I heard what Project Legacy had been up to. They were taking genetic material from ponies against their will, and using that to further their project, which the means of taking over all of Equestria, with the ponies the project created being in charge. Okay, that is definitely not in their mandate, I said with a groan. I really hated that experiment. It seems they've gotten it into their minds that genetic engineering is their new mega spell. I'm sorry, Rayne, this is my fault. I should have done something. Auntie, you're okay. You didn't do anything wrong, Rayne said, placing a hoof over my shoulder and giving me a reassuring smile. Besides, if you haven't, I really wouldn't be here today. Yeah, you do have a point there, I admitted. Scootaloo, there's something I should tell you about, Rayne started to say when the door opened and a white unicorn with a red mane tied into a braid poked her head in. Rayne, General Gavin wants me to come, she started to say before she saw me. Hi? Long story. What's up, Crystal? Rayne asked. General Gavin has called a war council to prepare for the attack, Crystal said as I put my hat back on. He and Sterling Silver wants us there, and her too. I nodded, and then we headed out. General Gavin was an aged griffin with a prosthetic front claw that somehow made him look even more terrifying than the grizzled veteran already did. He looked at me with an appraising look and frowned. Great. Just what we needed, another pre-war relic, Gavin said with a growl as his companion, a gray earth pony stallion with a silver-maned face-hoofed. Sorry, General Gavin hasn't really had his morning coffee, Sterling Silver said as he pushed his glasses up a little. As we were saying, we aren't equipped to take out a cloudy city as it stands. The typhoon is still days away, and it's not going to do us much good anyway against those shields. Well, there is one pony who can clear it, Crystal said and glanced at Rayne. But obviously one pony isn't enough. Yeah, Rayne said. I looked at her curiously, but just let it pass. Well, the Enclave has to be sneaking their soldiers in somehow, right? I pointed out. Is it possible they have like a secret way into the city that we don't know about? It is certainly possible, Gavin admitted. Have you heard any word from your friends or anyone on that front? Yeah, well, that is still a work in progress, Rayne admitted. It's a big mountain. You'd have to have better luck finding a needle in a haystack. There was a long silence at that as I examined the map of the surrounding area. There were several stables built into that area. In fact, Stable 21 had been built right into the middle of Las Pegasus. Windrider's idea, of course. It was really strange, though. Looking back sometimes when we interacted, there was times when he acted different with me and the others. It was probably just my imagination, but it was kind of strange looking back. Did I mean something to him? Something I didn't know about? The whole thing felt really weird, like there was something more to him than I knew during the war. The tent opened up and 2 new ponies entered. One of them was dressed in their repainted power armor I had seen, and the other one was a purple unicorn dressed in a neatly pressed suit and coat that covered most of her body.
Well, any luck? Well, we got good news and bad news,
the armored pony said in a distorted voice, but she still had a recognizable country accent.
We found a possible way into that city. Well, that's good. So, what's the bad news?
I asked curiously, though I was afraid of the answer.
It's being guarded by a lot of ponies dressed in Enclave power armor,
the purple unicorn added. Crap. Well, that was just our luck. What else could go wrong for us?
So, okay, let me get this straight,
Arclight said as we passed something called the Countess School of Impersonation towards where we would be staying.
Stapletech used genetic engineering to create 6 ponies using their DNA of the Ministry mares to help Equestria in the event of an apocalypse? Yeah, honestly, I didn't really like that idea either,
I admitted, rubbing the back of my head a little. But, you know, Luna herself backed it, and Eureka pushed it ahead with it. It's just a shame that he went crazy. I took a long look up at the new Pegasus strip that still loomed over us. It had been a long time since I had been here, but there was little point in dwelling on it. Actually, other than the Enclave taking it over, it was nice to see that some bit of the old world had been kept pretty intact. Now we just had to take it back from the most dangerous faction in Equestria.
So, what's the plan? Something called the Typhoon is on its way here. That'll at least help us,
I said with a shrug, since honestly, I had no idea what that even was.
But it won't get here for a couple days, so until then, we're kind of on our own. Great,
Ark said with a sigh as she petted Schooner a little, who wagged his tail happily.
So what are we gonna do? Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that one out,
I said.
We'll help the attack on New Pegasus and get what we came here for, but there's nothing really else we can do.
I see.
Well, I hope we can figure this out.
Me too, Ark. Me too, I said with a sigh as I looked up at the looming city above us once more.
This is going to change the future of Equestria. We gotta hope it's for the good.
We kept walking along to where we were staying. The next day I was talking to Rayne in her temporary quarters in Phillytown.
So, what did you call this?
I asked as I examined the strange pink-colored drink that I have never, ever seen before.
Sparkle Rose,
Rayne said as she took a drink of her own.
We did find the recipe and other ones in Sparkle World while we were there, when the project was trying to take over the raider gangs that had run over the park. Sparkle World, huh? I'm actually impressed that it was still standing,
I said as I took a drink. It was actually pretty good, at least.
So why would the project even want it? Lots of raiders called it home, and it could be used as a defensive position, not to mention technology too,
Rayne said with a nod.
Scootaloo, I feel like I've got a million questions to ask you.
You and the rest of Equestria, I said with a chuckle.
Though, you said you wanted to tell me something before? So what was that?
Rayne paused for a long moment before speaking up again, before going through her pack and came out with an old photograph.
I found this in the Lucky Horseshoe Casino. Wind Rider had it. You need to see it for yourself.
I looked at her strangely for a moment before looking at the photography carefully. It was of a group of ponies of various ages with an older mare at the center. There was something familiar about them. Then I saw who was sitting with the older mare. Even though she was still young, there was no way I couldn't recognize her.
That's me. Wait, who is this?
I asked, looking at Rayne.
That's the family of a Wonderbolt named Summer Reese,
Rayne said.
Apparently Wind Rider was a fan of hers. Scootaloo, it's your family.
I'm sorry? I stared at the photo for a long moment. They were my family? I had lost them so long ago, I couldn't even recognize them anymore. Tears started to well up in my eyes. I looked so happy back then. What happened to me? I was surprised to feel Rayne hugging me, and I looked over at her. She was actually worried about me. That actually meant a lot, and made me smile a little. We may have not been related, but she was still family to me.
Thank you, Rayne. You have no idea how much this means to me,
I said with a smile as she released a hug.
Though, why did Wind Rider have this picture? Like I said, he was a fan of your grandmother's,
Rayne said with a shrug.
It was kind of his whole motivation, apparently, why he tried to frame Mom. He didn't want to fade it into obscurity like she did. I see now, I said with a sigh as I brushed my back mane.
Well,
That makes sense, I suppose. So, what are those questions you wanted to ask me?
The rest of the day passed pretty normally. I got to meet other ponies from Project Legacy, and I had to admit, they were pretty interesting. Joy and Windsong had returned that evening with help, and Crimson Apple assured us that the typhoon would arrive sooner enough. I yawned and petted Schooner as I sat on my bed. The dog wagged his tail and nuzzled my hoof before laying down.
Well, I wonder what my dreams would be like tonight.
I wondered out loud as I looked up at the ceiling before slowly drifting off to sleep. When my eyes opened again, I found myself looking up at the ceiling of the same house I had woken up in before. This time I wasn't alone in bed. The covers next to me were disturbed, so maybe I had slept in? I looked out the window again and smiled a little at the sight of the sunshine in Ponyville. I had really no real illusions that any of this was real, but it was nice to see and at least imagine, even if it was just a dream.
Hey, sleepyhead.
Sweetie Belle said as she trotted in levitating a tray of food over to me before giving me a light kiss on the lips.
How'd you sleep? It was okay, I guess,
I said with a smile as I looked up at the food in front of me.
So, what's the occasion? Oh, you silly mare, how could you forget? It's your birthday,
Sweetie said with a giggle as she nuzzled me gently.
Me and Cloudy have been planning it for weeks. Wait, my birthday?
I asked confused, then it dawned on me. Tomorrow was my birthday. In all the rush I had completely forgotten. Oh my gosh. Jeez, I felt old.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, you're welcome,
Sweetie said with a smile as I started eating my breakfast.
Cloudy will be here in a moment. She wanted to get you something ready for you.
The door opened and Cloudy trotted in with a wrapped present and fluttered up onto the bed with it.
Happy birthday, Mom. Oh, thanks, Cloudy,
I said with a smile and hugged my daughter gently, and I opened the present up. I was a bit surprised to find that inside was a necklace with a Wonderbolt symbol, and I smiled.
Wait, where did you get this? Oh, there's been a real retro kick lately since the war ended,
Sweetie said with a shrug.
And, well, I still have friends from our Stable Tech days. Do you like it?
Cloudy asked.
I love it,
I said with a smile as I hugged Cloudy and Sweetie as tears started to stream down my eyes.
I love you two so much. We love you too, Scootaloo,
Sweetie said as she nuzzled me with a smile. I smiled and continued eating my breakfast. I knew deep down that I was going to have to wake up sooner or later and find myself in a battle for the future of Equestria, but to be honest, I didn't care. For a brief moment, I was the mother and wife I could have been if things didn't end like it had.
Come on, we've still got a lot to do today,
Sweetie said as I finished off breakfast and got out of bed and headed out of the bedroom to go meet with Apple Bloom. The next morning I looked at the date on my pip-book. It was hard to believe that it was now almost 211 years after the Megaspells went off, and it was my 41st birthday. Or was it my 251st birthday? Wow, I felt old all of a sudden. We headed out of the building we were sleeping in, and I was surprised at what I saw when I looked up. It was a large airship that had a symbol that I recognized as being similar to the Ministry of Wartime's technology symbol.
Hey, Scootaloo, you ready?
Rayne's voice called out to me as I adjusted my hat slightly. She was nearby with the rest of the group.
I'm ready,
I said as I checked my weapons.
What about Applejack's Rangers? Are they ready?
Yeah, we're all set, Cinnamon Apple said with a nod.
Elder Ironsides is on that typhoon and is ready to launch that attack while we're sneaking in through the hangar.
I looked up at the large airship for a moment longer. This wasn't really going to be an easy task, but we had no choice at this point. The Enclave was a threat to Equestria, and this might be our only chance to learn more about their operations. I looked at Arclight and Schooner, who nodded. We knew exactly what we had to do in this operation. I just had to hope that we were up for it.
Here, let's go,
Rayne said as we started towards the mountain that the city above had been built into. Making our way up the mountain wasn't easy, but thankfully Cinnamon and Corona was leading the way up, and they were taking us along the best path.
The Enclave has a few patrols in the area. We'll keep an eye on our EFS,
Rayne said as I nodded, checking mine as well, but there didn't seem to be anyone in the area, at least.
Corona, are you ready with that illusion spell, if we need it? Yeah, I'm ready,
Lavender Unicorn said as she looked up at the sky above us. Honestly, I had no idea what to make of all this. I wasn't exactly a soldier, but here I was, making my way into a war zone, and ultimately I was going to have to fight and even kill other ponies to reach our goal. I wondered if Rainbow ever thought about this during the war with the zebras. I had once actually tried to make it into the Shadow Bolts after she became the captain as well into the military, but they were afraid that my disability would be a hindrance in the battle. Now, here I was, heading for a battle with the Enclave. Man, Fate has a strange sense of humor indeed.
Are you okay, Scootaloo?
Rayne asked as she moved up next to me.
You seem a little distracted. Oh, yeah, I'm okay. Just thinking about everything that's going on.
I admitted.
I honestly didn't think I'd ever be doing anything like this. At least, not after I grew up. Yeah, well, this isn't exactly how I imagined my life either.
Rayne admitted.
But it is what it is. We'll just have to figure it out.
I nodded as we came to a stop, Corona's horn glowing purple as she placed an illusion around us. We were near the entrance to a larger cave carved out of rock with several ponies in power armor guarding the entrance. Rayne nodded to Cinnamon, who silently raised her foreleg and hit the button on the pip-buck integrated into her armor. Nothing happened for a few minutes before there was suddenly the sound of explosions as the attack on the city began. The Enclave guards mostly retreated into the hangar with only 2 staying outside, and the battle for New Pegasus finally begun.